This video is for the 12-3 work together. A payroll register for Judy's Fashions is provided. Complete the payroll register for the semi-monthly pay period ended July 15th. Use the federal income tax withholding tables in lesson 12.2 of your textbook. Use tax rates of 6.2% for Social Security and 1.45% for Medicare. Round dollar amounts to the nearest cent. Neither employee has reached the tax base. Withhold $60 for health insurance and $15 for a Roth IRA for each employee. The voluntary deductions are not eligible to be deducted from total earnings to calculate payroll taxes. So, a couple things in this. First of all, we are going to need our textbook, so you can either grab your physical one. I'm just going to open up my book from MindTap. So over here, I'm clicking on full book. I'm going to click on table of contents and scroll down to chapter 12. And then 12, I'm looking in 12.2 is where that will be. And then I'm needing these two. So here is my single. And then if I go to the next page, I will get my married. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start filling in some information. First part I'm going to fill in is the date. So pay period ending is July 15th. Oops, they want that in two separate boxes. So July 15th. For this one, they don't talk about they don't talk about when we're actually paying it. So I'm going to leave this one blank for right now, and hopefully they won't count that wrong, because they do not tell us in the directions that we are actually paying that yet. And so we would not fill that in until we do pay that. I believe that that's going to be in 12.4. Okay, so just like last time in the 12.2 work together, I'm going to do both of my federal income taxes first before I move on. So my first one for Edward, he is married, so I need to go to my married table. So I'm going to go to this table here. And then I need to find his total earnings, $1,432. So I need to find that on the table. Now this is kind of small, but here I see at least $1,420, but less than $1,440. So this is the row that I want to be on. Now again, we really have to be careful to make sure that we are on the correct row. If I get the wrong number here, that's going to throw off my total deductions and my net pay. Okay, from one number being wrong. So going back, I should be on this line here, that 1420 line. And then when I go back and look at his number of allowances, he has two allowances. So I'm going to go over to that 2 column. And so it looks like I'm going to withhold 61 in federal income tax. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and look up Janice. Janice is single, so I'm going to go back to that single table, and her total earnings is $971, so I need to find that on the table. So it's at least $960, but less than $980. That's the row that I'm going to be on, and she has one allowance. So I'm going to go over to the 1 column, and so it looks like here I'm going to withhold $76 for federal income. Okay, I am done with those taxes, so I could close this book if I wanted to. Next, I'm going to fill in my Social Security. So like it says up at the top, Social Security is going to be 6.2%. So I'm going to take total earnings, 1432.5 times 6.2%. I am going to need to round on this number, and I'm going to be rounding up, so I get 88.82. I know that this is pretty small on the screen there. Next one, I'm going to take 971.75 times 6.2%. Again, I'm going to need to round for this number, and so I should get 60.25. Medicare tax is going to be 1.45% of the earnings, so 1432.5 times 1.45%. Again, I am going to be rounding. I get 20.77, round down on that one. Next one, 971.75 times 1.45%. I'm going to need to round again. I get 14.09. Next column is my health insurance. So I do need to look at the directions for that. It does say withhold $60 for health insurance for each employee. So that is a deduction that I'm taking. So $60 for both. And then it also says the Roth IRA, we are going to withhold $15. One thing that I want to point out here is it says the voluntary deductions are not eligible to be deducted from total earnings to calculate payroll taxes. What that means is that I have to take them out of the total deductions. There are cases where we could take them out of their total earnings before we figure out payroll taxes. So we would take those out of here. Like if we had a retirement plan that would fit that, we would take it out of total earnings, and then that's going to make a difference in their federal income tax, Social Security tax, Medicare tax. So we would do it before we would calculate those things. This is saying these do not qualify. These aren't eligible to be taken from earnings first. Okay, so now the total, I'm going to be adding up the deductions for each employee. So for Edward, 61 plus 88.82 plus 20.77 plus 60 plus 15. And his total deductions are 245.59. Going to do the same thing for Janice. So 76 plus 60.25 plus 14.09 plus 60 plus 15. Janice total deductions is 225.34. And then I need to figure out my net pay for both. To figure out my net pay, I'm going to take my total earnings minus my total deductions. So net pay, I get 1,186.91. And then for Janice, oops, I did that wrong. Let me type that in again. So here I get a 746.41. Oops. Make sure I copy that number right, 746.41. Okay, I'm going to grade step 1. See, hopefully you didn't grade it. I did mark, they did mark that wrong, which personally they should not be marking that wrong at this point because we have not paid that. So it really should be filled in once we're actually paying that. So sorry if you marked this before I did and got that one wrong. Okay, next thing, total all the amount columns of the payroll register. So here we are simply going to add up each column. So we have small columns. We're just adding 2 numbers together. So you can check yours with mine. I'm actually going to just pause my video and add up mine and fill those in just so that you don't have to wait for me to add them in the calculator. Okay, I've filled in most of my totals here. I do want to show you a couple things. Here we can double check these numbers, and I always think it's a good idea to do that just because it's easy for us to make a human mistake of even typing in those numbers wrong or putting them in our calculator wrong. So when we look at like our total earnings, we can add this column this way, but we should also be able to add our total regular and our total overtime for it to equal that same number. Same thing with our deductions. We can add up this total column, but we can also add up each of our total deductions, and it should equal this number here. And then net pay was the last one that I have not put in yet, and that's going to be the same thing. We can add up that column to get 1,933.32, but we can also take our total earnings minus our total deductions, and that will give us then our total net pay. So it's a double way for us to check our work and make sure that we got our numbers correct. I'm going to grade step 2. And next step. So last step here, it says enter the July 5th payroll information on Mr. Johnson's quarterly earnings record from the payroll register. Mr. Johnson is employee number 2, rate of pay is 15, social security number is given, position as sales manager. Accumulated earnings at the end of the second quarter are 17,218. So first thing that we need to do is we need to fill in this top information. So earnings record for quarter ended. Now, this is looking at for the quarter ended. So this would not be July 15th. We would need to find what quarter. So what I would suggest doing is knowing what months go into each quarter. A quarter is going to be made up of 3 months. So quarter 1 is going to be January, February, and March. Quarter 2 is going to be April, May, and June. Quarter 3 is going to be July, August, and September. And then quarter 4 is going to be October, November, December. So if we are doing July 15th payroll, that means that it's falling in quarter 3. And so that means the end of the quarter is going to be the end of September. So I'm going to put in September. Here's where we need to know how many days are in each month. September has 30 days. So I'm going to put in September 30th. They've filled in some of this information for us. So here's the employee number, the name. We do need to fill in the marital status. So I'm going to look up here. Marital status is married. Withholding allowances, I'm going to look back up here, is 2. Rate of pay is given to us in these directions, so $15 per hour. So security number is already written in, and then the position is given to us in the directions. So sales manager. Okay, next I'm going to fill in this information. So I need to start with my accumulated earnings, which they give us in the directions. So accumulated at the end of the second quarter is what I'm going to fill in, $17,218. Now I'm going to be copying this information from the top. So 1,320, overtime is 112.5, total is 1,432.5. Federal income tax 61, Social Security tax 88.82, Medicare tax 20.77, health insurance 60, retirement plan 15, and a total deduction of 245.59 for our net pay of 1,186.91. So again, this is just something we want to make sure that we're copying. It seems really easy, but we want to make sure that we're copying our numbers in there correctly. I could double check these numbers by adding my regular and overtime together, adding all my deductions together to get my total deductions, and then taking my total earnings minus my total deductions to make sure that I copy my net pay correctly. Last thing that I need to do is put in my new accumulated earnings. So this is the big one that I have students get wrong every year. We do not want to add accumulated plus net pay. That is wrong. Look at this key word here. We're looking at earnings. So we're going to take previous accumulated earnings plus our total earnings from that pay period. So 17,218 plus 1,432.5. My new accumulated earnings is 18,650.5. I'm going to go ahead and grade my final step, and looks good. Okay, so save and continue. Now on 12/3 on your own, don't forget you are going to need to put in that date of payment. So sorry about that work together, but that's just going to be the same date, that July 15th. Again, like I said, it really should not be filled in though until we are actually making that payment.